Hi. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how things have changed, like how foods I used to be able to tolerate have shifted and changed, and vice versa. Things I couldn't tolerate now I'm good with. And also why I don't post like an actual meal plan. I don't really post a list of the foods that work for me or foods that I steer clear from. I do a little bit in my coaching program, the online coaching program that is in the links below. I call it a course that is kind of just runs through in a bunch of different modules exactly what I've done to figure out what works for me. But the reason I don't post my list of foods and things is because, frankly, I just think everybody's different. And my list changes, which I hope doesn't sound frustrating. I worry sometimes that the things I share on here are frustrating because it's not anything necessarily definitive. There are some very definitive steps that I've taken for sure. But in terms of which foods specifically work or don't work, it's up to each individual to kind of figure that out and stay on top of it and just be diligent and mindful. And it's not overwhelming now that I really have a handle on the key pieces, which I talk about in my videos and I certainly go over in the coaching program, the Freedom from IBS coaching program, which are timing and order of food and types of foods. So soluble fiber first, and then certain foods at certain times of day, things to think about, temperatures of foods, that kind of thing. So anyway, some of the foods that have shifted for me over time are dairy. I've talked about that in another video where I used to be very, very intolerant of dairy even before I had like true symptoms of IBS. I really thought I was just lactose intolerant. And now I'm able to eat more dairy more often than I've been able to in a lot of years. So I don't know if I'm really truly lactose intolerant. I eat low lactose cheeses and it seems to work for me, but I don't do it every day. Anyway, that's another video. But so dairy has changed for me, and salads change for me quarterly. So sometimes a leafy green salad is going to go really well, and I'm going to feel really good. And sometimes it's just going to run right through me. So I try not to be too TMI on here, but I think you all know if you're watching what those symptoms are. And so sometimes I can eat like a salad instead of leafy greens, maybe like chopped raw cabbage, and other times, that would just tear me up. So how do I determine? Well, I go slow and I try to eat seasonally. That's part of it. So in the spring, when we would be normally having those leafy greens emerging from the earth, if they start to sound good to me, I'm gonna introduce some raw leafy greens slowly into my diet and make sure I'm tolerating okay and chewing it very well. That's a whole nother video too. And making sure that I start out with my soluble fiber first. So that's kind of my method. And then into the summer months, maybe when those leafy greens are kind of, fizzling out, and we might be getting, summer, end of summer, seasonally speaking, when you're thinking about the harvest, the cabbages coming out or Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. I do think about those things. I don't follow it diligently, but I have noticed sometimes the seasons will dictate what actually sounds good to me too. Like our bodies kind of know what they need if we can get things calmed down enough to be able to really let those messages come through clearly. So then, with a raw cabbage salad, like a coleslaw or something, just again in small doses. And raw is different than cooked for sure. Raw is always going to be a different experience than cooked, and so I experiment with that too. So it's all just a testing, going slow, listening to your body, taking any negative symptoms that come as a positive sign that, okay, I got to do something different, right? Instead of being frustrated by it and feeling like you can't eat anything. So dairy salads and nuts are another thing. Nuts have changed for me. And sometimes I think it's because I kind of overdid it. Like once I discovered that nuts weren't a problem for me, I was eating a lot of nuts. And I was eating whole nuts versus like ground. And I just think it was just a little too much for me. So I really scaled that back. And because I started having a lot of bloating and discomfort when I ate nuts, like about 3 hours later, I would notice it. So when it's passing through, I guess it would be the lower intestine at that point. Or maybe just making its way into the intestines. Anyway. So if I eat them ground, I'm fine. And all of this can change. All of this can change again down the road. So my point is to make it an experiment and just take the information you get, take the data that you get from the experiment, make your choices, make your decisions, and go from there. And consider the temperature of the food. Consider whether it's ground or whole. Consider whether it's cooked or raw. Consider the season. And I know it feels like a lot, and I'm here for you. I can certainly be your digestion coach. That's something that I offer. I'm a life coach with a focus on health and wellness, and my info is down below. So I'd be more than happy to help you sort those things out, and throw your comments in the video or send me an email if you have questions. And I'm happy to help. But the point is, it's all good information, everything we go through. And the more we know, the more knowledge that we have, the healthier we can get. All right, take care.